What's up, everyone? Tera Roberts here with Fantasy Alarm, and we are talking free agency deep cuts for Week 13. Let's chase the points with Mike White. He is coming off a fantastic game of 22 completions on 28 passes for 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. And this week, he faces a Minnesota defense that is absolutely atrocious against the pass. So bad that they just gave up a career game to Mac Jones. White is a bit of a risky option because, as we saw in 2021, what goes up does eventually come right back down with Mike White. But I just can't pass up the opportunity to take advantage of a team that allows the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Jaylen Warren is the must-add for low-rostered running backs. And jump on it now, because his roster percentage is steadily on the rise as more people realize that Warren was a full participant in practice on Wednesday, and likely to be the lead back if Najee Harris is out. Prior to his Week 11 injury, Warren was pushing towards creating a split backfield and had 2 straight games of 10 fantasy points in PPR. Even if Harris is active, Warren would still likely jump back in as the 1B to Harris in a fantastic matchup with Atlanta. So in or out, I am still rolling with Warren. Zonovan Knight seems to be the next man up for the Jets if Michael Carter is out, but as of the filming of this video, he is nearly 40% rostered. James Robinson is very well rostered as well, but Ty Johnson is barely rostered despite having the more productive game in Week 12. Johnson had 5 carries for 62 yards and 1 touchdown plus 1 reception for 16 yards. If the Jets opt to sit Robinson again, Johnson can be a nice deep play for those who were not able to grab Knight. At wide receiver, let's start with the highest rostered options, just under 30% rostered, and then work our way down to a couple of receivers less than 10% rostered. Mack Hollins has been very productive as the wide receiver 2 for Las Vegas. It is very hard to share the field with Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs hogging up all the fantasy points, but the Raiders are not a very good team, and that provides a lot of offensive opportunities. Opportunities for Holland to see a decent amount of targets and some touchdowns as well. Hollins has had a total of 20 targets over the last 3 games and double-digit fantasy points in PPR in the last 2 games. And while the LA Chargers have definitely been tougher against wide receivers compared to running backs, the targets should be plenty in a game where the Raiders will likely have to chase points to keep up with the Chargers offense. Now, let's stay in that same matchup and go with another option on the opposite team and go with DeAndre Carter. Mike Williams is still not practicing, and if he is unable to play on Sunday, that makes DeAndre Carter the wide receiver 3 in an extremely advantageous matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders. Carter is coming off a performance of 7 receptions on 10 targets for 73 yards and 1 touchdown. He has double-digit fantasy points in PPR in 3 of the last 4 games and 2 touchdowns over that span. Very solid option. But if you need to go even lower rostered, Skyy Moore is an interesting option that is on the rise. Cincinnati is a poor matchup receivers, but the Bengals defense focuses on the big name weapons, and for the Chiefs, that could open things up for Moore, who has had 2 straight games of 5 receptions on 6 targets with a snap count that is on the rise. Moore is a less reliable option than the previously 2 mentioned receivers, but he does have intriguing upside. And the lowest rostered option is Randall Cobb. Christian Watson is having the breakout performance for the Packers, but he's not the only one who's having success. And despite the fact that Aaron Rodgers is dealing with an ongoing thumb injury, Randall Cobb is a viable low-end option because when Cobb is healthy and playing a decent amount of snaps, he sits in that 10 to 15 fantasy point range and can be a solid option if you are struggling in a deeper league. And at tight end, it has been incredibly difficult to find low-rostered tight ends that actually have upside. Tyler Conklin has been on the struggle bus lately. He has had less than 10 fantasy points in the past 3 games, but if there is a time for him to get back to that early season version of Tyler Conklin, it is this matchup right here. We talked about it, but let's talk about Conklin. Conklin has not seen more than 3 targets since week 8, but he is still seeing a high snap count, so the opportunities are there. And we talked about the Minnesota defense that struggles against opposing quarterbacks. Well, they also struggle against opposing tight ends. So we can take a chance that Tyler Conklin will see an increase in targets this week and can be a solid low rostered option for you. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to Fantasy Alarm, and come back next week for more deep waiver ads.